I believe in the profession of journalism. That line has been quoted millions and millions of times all around this world. Walter Williams wrote this, not exactly sure, early in his career, and it has been reprinted, translated in dozens and dozens of foreign languages. When I was a student here in 1937, I had to memorize this, word by word, comma by comma, semicolon by semicolon, and we had to keep writing it until we got it perfect. It is probably more important than it was when Williams himself wrote it.
Well, as a teacher, he was excellent. He knew everything about the whole world as far as that goes. He traveled a lot, did much traveling, and especially in China. He was an expert on China. His voice was deep. It was an interesting voice. He was a good speaker. None of his students ever went to sleep. Well, about 30 students were taking the last class, and he was ready to go down to the Jesse Hall to be president, and he didn't want to go. And he left the class and started down the long hall, and the man looked very lonely. He broke down and cried as he left. In other words, this was his baby. He had founded the school, and he hated to leave.
I heard so often as a student that it entered my DNA. I think it's good to see it again in type. It's been many years. I believe in the profession of journalism. I believe that the public journal is a public trust, and that all connected with it are, to the full measure of their responsibility, trustees for the public.
I believe that a journalist should write only what he holds in his heart to be true.
That acceptance of a lesser service than the public service is betrayal of this trust.
I believe that clear thinking and clear statement, accuracy and fairness are fundamental to good journalism.
I believe that suppression of the news for any consideration other than the welfare of society is indefensible.
I believe that no one should write as a journalist what he would not say as a gentleman.
That bribery by one's own pocketbook is as much to be avoided as bribery by the pocketbook of another.
That individual responsibility may not be escaped by pleading another's instructions or another's dividends.
I believe that advertising, news, and editorial columns should alike serve the best interests of readers.
That a single standard of helpful truth and cleanness should prevail for all.
That the supreme test of good journalism is the measure of its public service.
I believe that the journalism which succeeds best and best deserves success, fears God and honors man.
Is stoutly independent, unmoved by pride of opinion or greed of power, constructive, tolerant, but never careless,
self-controlled, patient, always respectful of its readers, but always unafraid.
Is quickly indignant at injustice, is unswayed by the appeal of privilege or the clamor of the mob,
seeks to give every man a chance, and as far as law and honest wage and recognition of human brotherhood can make it so, an equal chance.
Is profoundly patriotic while sincerely promoting international goodwill and cementing world comradeship.
Is a journalism of humanity of and for today's world.
He says some of it sounds a little stilted and a little more formal than we would probably express the sentiments today, but it's the underlying principles are certainly principles that I believe are the history and tradition of journalism and its keys for success in the future.
Well, I think it means the same today as it did when it was written. Yes.
It's a tall order, but you know, I think people get into journalism because they have ideals about making the world a better place. And if you don't have that ideal, I don't think you have the fire in the belly to really be in the business.
Suppression of the news is indefensible. That is happening so much today. We're losing so many of our privileges, freedoms that we take for granted by pure apathy. So that really struck me too.
I'm so concerned about the public's perception of journalism and of the news industry. I think there's a lot of distrust of the media. I think Walter Williams just had it right on that you must be accurate, you must be fair to both sides of a news story.
Your newspaper has to be trusted. If your readers don't trust you, you might as well close down your doors, stop your press. I mean, why would anybody want to read something that they can't trust? On the other hand, you've got to earn that trust by being fair.
I believe that advertising, news, and editorial columns should alike serve the best interest of readers. I think especially in the news segment in society today, I don't think we serve the best interest of readers. And I'm talking not so much about community journalism, but I think on a national scale.
And I think all of us that have been in the profession have oftentimes been challenged by the almighty dollar. In other words, do I run this with knowing that it may cost me an advertising account?
Lost some friends over it, you know, because I've had people call and say, oh, please don't put this in the paper and don't do this and don't do that. And I've said, I can't do that. It's not that I want to do it. It doesn't make me happy, but it makes me unhappy because if you care about people, that's what he says about here about fearing God and honoring man. If you care about people, you care when they're hurt, but you can't ignore it.
I believe the suppression of the news for any consideration other than the welfare of society is indefensible. And this is exactly what we talk about constantly today. It's suppression. I mean, you could use it, you could use that as a pointing out the need for shield law to be able to protect your sources.
Oh, I think he'd be appalled. As Yogi Berra once said, if he were alive today, he'd be turning over in his grave, you know. No, and the things that have made, and I really believe that what has changed it has been what changes so much else in American life, and that is too much money. Money's okay, I love money, too much money corrupts. And the influence of money in our journalism has, for one thing, it has created a kind of careerism that has replaced the craft, the apprenticeship and the mastery of doing honest work. We are celebrities now.
Cutting news budgets and news holes and stuff like that to please the stockholders, to make the bottom line look good, instead of settling for 10% on a wonderful news product, we've got to go for 20% and not such a good product. And I'm sure that would disappoint him, as it disappoints many of us.
I believe we all think we are patriotic in the right way, but sometimes we are called not patriotic if we are expressing ideas, opinions, quotes that don't seem to be in keeping with what is considered today's patriotism.
I think he would be a fan of convergence. I think that had we had video cams and the internet available in Walter Williams' day, he would have been figuring out how to use those tools to get good journalism into the hands of the public. I hate to think of Walter Williams as a geek, but I think he would certainly embrace the high-tech delivery methods and news gathering methods that are available today.
I have a copy of Walter Williams' Creed on the wall of my office where I can look at it every day. Sometimes I just glance at it, realize it's there, and don't think much about it. I take it for granted because it's part of the woodwork, basically. But it really should be part of the woodwork. We should incorporate that so much into our practices as journalists that we don't even give it a second thought.
But I think it's one of the great moments was walking into Washington, D.C. to the National Press Club, getting off the elevator. But I'm looking around, and the first thing I see is Walter Williams' Journalist Creed on the, and I thought, man, university, they've always said the University of Missouri's, a great journalism school, but here we are in Washington, D.C. with all these great journalists around, and every time they get off the elevator, they see the Journalist Creed.
I think that creed is one of the basic reasons Missouri School of Journalism became an exceptional school of journalism, became an inspiration to so many young people to recognize the challenge of being in the press.
It's relevant and more important than ever. How's that? I think we're a great nation, we're very challenged, and I think that our press, our media have an indispensable role to play. And I hope that we're going to continue to be up to it.
I agree with 100% of it. We probably should have studied this more. If everyone lived by this today in our profession, we would probably be a much more respected profession than we are today.
Thank you.